اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Dear respected brothers and sisters, Salamun alaikum wa rahmatullah. Alhamdulillah, we have this opportunity to have this webinar, the 93rd session of webinar on parenting. As you know, this is a recurring webinar on Saturdays from 6 to 7. And we have this opportunity to have our special guests and experts from around the world, and we learn from them. Alhamdulillah, once again, we have this opportunity to be at service of you, and also to learn from great ulama in the and the great scholars in the sphere of parenting. So, Alhamdulillah, today we have a special guest, Sheikh Hujjat al-Islam wal-Muslimin, Sheikh Afzal Merali. And before we start the program, let's have a short biography on our respected guest. Sheikh Afzal Merali is an Islamic scholar who specializes in Islamic sciences and law, with a keen interest in Islamic and religious history and the methodology of Tabligh. He is a teacher at the HIWM of England and is currently studying a master's degree in Quranic Sciences and Tafsir. Sheikh Afzal started his Hausa studies in the UK, after which he migrated to Lebanon, studying in its houses for 10 years, mashallah, and continued his studies there for 5 years in Hausa at the level of Bahth Kharij, mashallah, with this depth of knowledge and expertise. We can't wait to learn from you. Shaykhuna, salamun alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So it's a pleasure, Shaykhuna, to be with you, with us, and to have you.
Barakallah bikum, respected Sayyid, Jazakumullah. Thank you very much. It's always an honor for me to be at your service and the service of our respected viewers. Barakallah bikum, inshallah.
Ahsantum. I understand that the topic is teaching compassion to our children. Why this topic, Shaykhuna?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. If we were to, I find that in the philosophy of choosing topics, it's always important for us to consider the latest developments and circumstances and things that are happening at the time of what you're going to be addressing. Sometimes, let's say, there is a really beautiful philosophical or ideological topic that is really, really interesting, but in the end, it's not pertinent to what's happening at the time. Today, if we look back just a few days ago, there was one of the most destructive earthquakes in the past millennia, whereby tens of thousands of people have lost their lives. We've had cases in which, imagine that ladies have passed away, but their children are born under the rubble, and the baby is being pulled out with the umbilical cord still attached to the mother from underneath the rubble. I've seen clips of people actually within the buildings and how the buildings are falling down. People being pulled out, and their only worry is, for example, one lady, her only worry was that she didn't want to be pulled out without her hijab on, or young daughters, young children, boys, girls. With this taken into consideration, I feel that it's extremely important for us as a human global community on the one hand, and secondly, also as a Muslim community on the other, considering the fact that the earthquake, it actually struck in two Muslim majority countries, which is Turkey and Syria. Of course, its ripples also did reach other parts of the world as well. It was also felt in Lebanon. It was also felt, I believe, in Iraq as well, etc. Although the main event, the epicenter, was in Turkey, and it was also really destructive in Syria as well. So based on that, I feel that it is extremely important for us to explain to our children, first of all, to embody this this ethic of compassion, this value of compassion, as I will come to explain today in the context of my dialogue, inshallah. So this was basically the reason for which I chose the topic. That first of all, how do we explain this to our children? How do we teach them how to react? Even especially those of us who live abroad. Our children may not feel that effect as children in those parts of the world will. It's my role as a parent for me to prepare my child and how to deal with it, even if it is far away. Because God forbid, if something like this were to happen in my own backyard, then my child knows how to deal, how to sympathize with others, and how to act as well.
Ahsantum, Shaykhuna. Indeed, it was very heartbreaking, especially when you look at the after math of the earthquake. It affected a lot of lives and and it's very important, as you said, to have some sort of compassion. But I want to see that where do we bring this compassion? What is the source of compassion in a lifestyle that is more pushing people towards individualism?
Ahsantum. Today's lifestyle, if you have a look at urban societies, and this is especially actually with regards to urban societies, especially in huge cosmopolitan cities, in comparison to more smaller rural townships and towns and smaller cities, where you find that there still is that social cohesion, that the strength of connections and relationships between different peoples, neighbors and family, etc. But those of us living in, let's say, a little bit bigger cities, or those of us living in the West, let me just start with a couple of Islamic texts. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, to start off with, to understand the importance of this, right? Allah says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, in Surah Az-Zumar, فَوَيْلٌ لِلْقَاسِيَةِ قُلُوبُهُم. That woe unto those people whose hearts are really stiff, they are hard as rock, that they don't feel any light, they don't feel affected by anything, they don't feel compassion, or they don't feel merciful towards those in need. Their hearts are stiff, they're indifferent. وَمَنْ قَسَى قَلْبُهُ بَعُدَ مِنْ رَبِّهِ. A narration from Imam Sadiq Salamullah alayhi, he explains that he whose heart becomes stiff and hard, this person will slowly go away from their Lord. They will become distant from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do you know why that is? It's because of the fact that this mercy, it takes you to act, to take by, and to act out those actions, those a'mal salihah that bring you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, coming to your question, that where does this actually come from? To start off with, it's difficult for us to basically come and philosophically or logically identify what this compassion actually means. But in really simplification, in a simple way, it is a form of inclination of the heart and emotions, okay, towards something that brings happiness and joy towards you. You see somebody in need, you see somebody in a painful situation, you feel inclined to come to their aid. And when you do that, it leaves a positive impact on yourself, it leaves a positive impact on your self-esteem, etc. This, where does it come from? It's actually, you feel that there are two places. There are two places that this hanan, that is to say, this compassion, as it is mentioned in the Holy Quran, hananan, is mentioned in the Holy Quran, or this atuf, this rahmah that it comes from. The very first place is actually inspiration from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, this inspiration from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes at two levels. One is the basic standard levels, okay? You go to a factory to buy a car, for example, there is the standard model, okay? The standard model of a particular branded or particular class that you may want. But then you want to go and add some more features to the car. So this becomes a bit more expensive. So you have to pay a bit more. You have to fork out a little bit more. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He refers to the fitrah, one of the components of this fitrah is for a person to seek what? To seek kamal. Is for a person to seek perfection. Okay? So anything that may lead to you feeling a positive feel about yourself, or anything that may lead to you becoming better, more perfect in any way or form, okay? This a general inclination. It's not always that inclination will take you to the right place. In general, the inclination will, but if there are external factors which will have deviated you from the correct understanding of perfection, you think that money, you think that cars, etc., that is perfection, then it will take you to that way. But in general, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to seek perfection, to become perfect. And as a result, you will feel that there are those things that you want to do which give you that good feeling, that feeling of pride, that feeling of happiness about yourself, that self-esteem, positiveness. Secondly, amongst the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has programmed the human fitrah with is actually compassion. For a person to have that rahmah, for a person to have that love. Look at the Holy Quran. Look at how humanity is. That when a child is born, immediately it has that instinctive feeling towards the mother. It feels comfort when the mother comes to protect it. And the mother is also the same. The father is the same. The grandparents. There is what is known as Salat al-Rahim. That is to say, to enjoin and observe your family relations. This is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala programs everybody to have a standard level of. A standard level of. Now, number two, the enhancement. You want more features. As a person perfects their akhlaq, as a person perfects their manners, their values, they believe in the essential value of each and every human being. They believe in a correct ideology. And furthermore, they also engage in a program of self-purification, tazkiyat al-nafs or tahdhib al-nafs. They have an ibadi program. They seek taqarrub to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even through prayers, through good deeds. As that happens, this soul in itself, slowly, the tarnishes and the darkness that comes to the soul, that affects the soul from the doing of materialistic elements, the soul becomes brighter and it becomes closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In other words, the traits and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they manifest on your soul more. So you will become a manifestation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy according to your capacity. Correct? So this is the second area. Now, the third place, and this is not in any way in contradiction to those two, it falls within the same line. It falls within the same line, which is what? If this child does not get the love of its parents, if the child has been begotten, God forbid, you see this in the Western society quite a lot. And this is one of our criticisms to the Western family setting, if I were to say. So many times you find that a child, let's say the parents or the family, they have quarrels or they have, for example, differences with, they just throw the child out. And I personally see cases. I see cases that not when the child is 18, this is a sunnah. Now this is a sunnah. 18, you get out. Okay? On your 18th birthday, you give back the key, khair inshallah, and you get a kick out. You do whatever you have to do, khair. On the second, because they're no longer responsible. They don't feel that this is, and so they consider that they are responsible in front of what? In front of maybe the state, in front of the government, in front of the legal system. Otherwise, they may be charged. Otherwise, they will open a can of worms for themselves, for counseling, for social workers, whatever. But on the other hand, when the child becomes 18, you'll go out. You're not our legal responsibility anymore. It's as if this loving connection with the children, with the family members, it's only on a legal basis. Khair, inshallah, more formal. But you haven't given this love in a proper way to your children, in a proper way to other family members. Now, the children specifically, if you don't give them that, they won't be able to reciprocate. A child can give as much as you give it. That's why in our riwayat, there is emphasis that give as much as possible love to your daughter specifically. Why? Because she is going to become a mother tomorrow. And a mother needs to have more emotional, more love, more compassion than even the father. Her responsibilities toward the children are de facto more. It's not him who's going to be breastfeeding, it's her who's going to be breastfeeding. Okay? It's not him who's going to be giving birth, it's her. Khair, etc., etc. So basically, this emotion then, however much we give them, they will also reciprocate and they will be able to handle it, to balance it. Now, yeah, this is in general, in a nutshell then, or in a big nutshell.
Ahsantum. I could take some notes, Shaykhuna, on what you beautifully said on the three origins of compassion. And they're not also separate from each other as well. The first one was the humanistic, I call it, the humanistic purpose, which is the sense and the inclination towards perfection, and the sense of which is based on the feeling and the sense of self-esteem. And the second one was manifestation of Allah's mercy as an, let's say, emblem for a Muslim. We try to be Khalifatullah on the earth. Allah is Rahman al-Rahim, and we try to follow his attributes. And the third one is to, I didn't get the core message of it, but I guess it was about the
family.
Family
is the family specifically.
Ahsantum.
However much you give, okay, you should expect. Yani the parents give, this will be a source of, they are a source for compassion being obtained by the child. So it's like you're a fuel station and this is the car. You're giving the car this much compassion. Inshallah, they will be able to use it in their life.
MashaAllah. So Brother Himraj, one of our loyal viewers, may Allah protect him and his family, he's asking some questions. He's actually he's mentioning some points, very interesting points. He's saying that, in a nutshell, that how compassion is related to gender, or let's say, what is the gender's role in the compassion? Are men more compassionate or women? If you could.
In general, if we are to look at, first of all, if we look at the emphasis that has been mentioned in the narrations with regards to compassion, let me mention this in a uslub al-hakim way. First of all, if you look at the narrations and the amount of importance that has been given to the mother, ummaka ummaka ummak thumma abuk, correct? Or thumma abak, that I enjoin you to be good to your mother, an emphasis of 3 times, then your father. The Jannah itself is under the feet of the mothers, okay? If we look at some of the narrations of some of the women, for example, going to the Holy Prophet ﷺ and explaining that we do all of this for the children, for the family, and for the husbands, etc., And what is our reward, whereby one of you, if they were to, for example, strive in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and they lose their life, then they will be considered to be a martyr, whereas we don't have that. What do we get? So the Holy Prophet said that whatever you do, all of this, if you do what you are doing, you're fulfilling your duty. You're fulfilling your duty as a mother, you're fulfilling your duty as a wife, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you the same ajr. So it's both of these doors, they lead to them. With regards to compassion, I know that this is a controversial issue right now, with especially some loud voices, okay? Loud bullying, mob tactic voices. But with respect to compassion, with respect to love, let us say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has instilled this in both. Secondly, the way that this comes out and the intensity with which it comes out is different in both. The way and the intensity. Okay? A father may, for example, with his, let's say, teenage son, he may take him to a football game to show his love, to bond with him, may take him to the park to ride a bike together, or play with him, PlayStation, inshallah, depending. Whereas a mother, when the son, for example, comes home, let's say, she may hug him, she may put food for him on the table, if she's a housewife, for example, okay, she may kiss her son. That we find compassion is there in both, but it is manifested in a different way. The mother herself is a bigger source of compassion. It is different. It is different. The compassion of a mother is more. The sacrifice that a mother does or that a mother gives is more than the father. I'm not saying that, and I'm not saying that it is in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala any less than the sacrifice of the husband or the father, okay? Any less in value. I'm not talking about the value, what is more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But I'm saying that a mother will be more willing, she will have more endurance. A father has less stamina, right? This is something that we find wujdan and we find it outside. So yes, you find that a mother has more compassion. She shows her compassion more so. A father does also have the compassion, love, mercy, but you find it in the mother more. Now, is this a very general rule? It is a general rule, but there are always exceptions. Okay, sometimes you may find that there is a certain father who is more compassionate than the mother. These are known as exceptions, but in general, no, this is what is there, as is found in the narrations themselves. As is found in the narrations. Now, because of this, there are some narrations that actually, for example, a narration from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, and this is with regards to how to treat people who have those higher levels of emotions. Okay, for example, our daughters. The Holy Prophet says, "La tukrihul banat," and do not force, or la takrahul banat. Don't dislike daughters. Okay, let's say, for example, because of sometimes it's maybe difficult to deal with a daughter. Okay, no, on the contrary, love them. فَإِنَّهُنَّ الْمُؤْنِسَاتُ الْغَالِيَاتِ, because of the fact that they are the ones who give you comfort. Okay, they are the ones who are really precious, especially to their fathers. Okay, they are like mothers to their fathers. They are they're extension of their own mothers as well, and also you feel like the father also feels like his own mother, like this is a part of like the granddaughter, and she's also part of the grandmother herself. This is, and I speak like, for example, my own experience at home. The way that my daughter deals with me 7 years old or 6 years old is different than the way that my son 10 years old deals with me. It's different, Jani.
It's applicable to most of us or everyone.
Bala.
MashaAllah, yes. The daughters are Abiha to all of us. And we learned that from the Prophet himself, Sallallahu
Allahumma
Alaihi Wasallam, when he called his daughter Abiha.
salli.
And indeed, and there are some also verses in the Quran that pinpoints the level and the status of mother. For example, the verse in Surah Luqman, the 14th verse in the Surah Luqman, which says that ووصينا الإنسان بوالديه حملته أمه وهنا على وهن. And although this is a compassion that mother does automatically, naturally. However, for that, we are put into debt forever to our mothers for that thing. And they deserve more compassion because of that, action. Allah protect you. Brother Himraj also asking that how rich and poor affect the compassion, being compassionate. Doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, because sometimes you want to do something, for instance, for what you initially mentioned about Turkey and what happened in different countries as well, in Syria and Iran, Khoi. And if you're rich, you could show your compassion more, isn't it? But if you're not rich, it will affect you. So what is your understanding of this?
Actually, if you look at amongst the things, I was reading on one of the aspects of social akhlaq is the aspect of serving others. Okay. And I can't find the riwayah right now, but the meaning of the riwayah was the fact that whoever serves a group of Muslims, whoever serves, let's say the servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then on the day of Qiyam, then in Jannah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant him as many servants as the people that he served or she served. Is it possible to be more compassionate if you have more money? Actually, you will find that it is more difficult to be compassionate because of the fact that your subscriptions will increase. Okay. Your commitments to your materialistic comforts and luxuries will increase. Your holiday frequencies will increase. And interestingly, maybe your ziyarat will also increase, inshallah. Yani. And you may find it difficult to part with something. So that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, according to the aspects of ilal al-ahkam that were mentioned in al-khutbah al-fadakiyah or in other riwayat that are related to the justifications of ahkam, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enforce on us the different huquq like zakat and khums, etc., so that there would be a kind of balance between the rich and the poor. Secondly, that the rich would also feel the pain of the poor, because otherwise he won't feel it if you don't make him, if he doesn't go and see what the poor is in need of. And in addition to that, we also find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, amongst the reasons for which he actually made fasting wajib, is so that the ghani, the rich person, can feel the hunger of the poor person. So being rich in itself, it takes you to a different reality. Now, am I saying that everybody who is well off, then they won't feel compassion? No, not at all. Rather, al-mu'min al-qawi khayrun min al-mu'min al-da'if. Khayr. Mu'min who is stronger, yani in all aspects of strength, whether it is faith, whether it is knowledge, whether it is financial well-being, etc., is better than a weaker mu'min, okay? As long as he's able to do it in a halal way. So now, with respect to compassion, in general, a person who is poor, because they feel that pain, they are closer to it, okay, they will feel for the fellow poor person more because they feel their pain. They know their pain. They know it, as I say, wujdanan, and not mafhuman. Wujdanan, it means they feel it in their soul, in their heart, in their lives. They feel it. And they don't know of it as just a mental concept. Oh, there is something that's called poverty that exists. With respect to the people who are more well off, yes, you do find people who have really soft hearts and compassionate. And there are some rich people that I myself know, they were well off, that cannot bear to see the pain of others. It's difficult for them. Literally, this is how their hearts are built. It's difficult for them. There are some really beautiful hearted mu'mineen that I know, that when, for example, sometimes they're approached that, listen, we would like to do so and so program for Shahr Ramadan for a certain 100 amount of people per day for the 30 days. They say, I'm ready. Bismillah. Immediately, just like that. This is that khair. Now, is it, what I'm saying is that, should the poor person, the poor mu'min, seek a halal way to become richer in order to be able to help people more with that wealth? Yes, of course. Yes, of course. This is the school of Amir al-Mu'mineen sallallahu alayhi. Who told you that Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam was financially in financial difficulties? Who said that? If you go, you will find that Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, he actually had an economic school per se. He had an economic approach or a theory that he was applying. Amongst the things that Amir al-Mu'mineen sallallahu alayhi used to do, and he was very well known for, was the fact that he would dig wells. And in our narrations, I think between 70 to 100 wells he dug. And he would then give them either to a tribe, etc. So they would be there. And Muawiyah, when Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, during the life of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, once he actually offered to buy one of these wells, if I'm not mistaken, between for 70,000 or 70,000 dinars or dirhams, I can't remember, for that much. And in today's money, we're talking about thousands of pounds, tens of thousands of pounds, just one well. One out of 70 or 100, one. This is Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. In one of the narrations, you find that there was a poor person who came to Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, and Qambar was there as well. And the Imam alayhi salam, in some way, he actually showed him, he was allowed to see sacks. They're full of money. And Imam alayhi salam, in what some of the wording is, the gist of the wording, that this is some of our sadaqat for a month or for a week. Some of our sadaqat. He was known to be kathir as-sadaqah. On top of that as well, Amir al-Mu'mineen was known for istislah al-aradi, ihya ard al-mawad, that is to say, those pieces of land which are barren, which are left out without any owner, Imam Ali sallallahu alayhi would go. He would work on them. He would farm them, cultivate them, put whatever fertilizer, etc. is needed in order to enrich the earth and the soil itself, and then he would plant. And then when it would become ready, he would sell it. And it was known that when Imam Ali salam would want to sell a piece of land, the poor people of Medina, they would become happy. Because they'll say, aha, now we're going to have something, we're going to receive something from Ali bin Abi Talib alayhi salam. Okay? So no, it is. Both of them have. This one has more advantage because financially he can do more. This one, it's not that he can't do anything, just be compassionate. On the contrary, he can always extend that hand of help. You see right now, I saw people, for example, from Lebanon going to Syria to go and help. People from all over the world, they've gone to Turkey to go and help. From the UK, they've gone to help. Okay? And it's not that only the rich can help financially. On the contrary, in the end, the money itself, the pieces of paper, they can't do anything if this person doesn't go and do it physically. Right? So both are needed.
Ahsantum, mashallah, Shaykhana. Very interesting points on Amir al-Mu'mineen's way of life. روحي وأرواح العالمين بتراب مقدمه الفداء. And indeed, if I want to add something as well for the benefit of our brothers and sisters, that no matter what level of, let's say, wealth we're in, and what sort of financial status we have, we do have some inclination towards our properties and our belongings. And indeed, in the Quran, Allah is mentioning, I'm referring to Sheikh Afdal's second point, which he said that we should be a manifestation of Allah's mercy. So there is a verse in Quran that Allah is recommending or commanding the mu'mineen to that, and that is لن تنالوا البر حتى تنفقوا مما تحبون. Isn't that, Shaykhuna?
Yes, 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 100%.
And Allah, one of Allah's attributes is al-bar. So he is the owner of that being bar, which is the higher level of doing good. So he's doing good to with all aspects.
Correct.
Multi-dimensionally doing good. So not only but hasana is just doing good in one dimension. For example, helping someone is hasana, but bar means multi-dimensional. So it doesn't matter what level, isn't it? What level we have, how much money we have, but we do have some stuff. For example, we all have time, we all have words to spend. If we don't have any money, isn't it? We all have compassion, as you mentioned.
Ahsantum, ahsantum. And over here, actually, you mentioned the matter of words itself. According to, I can't remember the ayah itself, that if I'm not mistaken, I think one of the ayat that they ask you what to spend. And if I'm not mistaken, the ayah says قول معروف, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. Yes.
قول معروف ومغفرة خير من صدقة
تتبعها
أذى.
So based on that, a good piece of word, something of remembrance, like for example, on social media, you're able to, just spread the news. You're able to write your sympathies. These matters actually, they mean a lot to a person who is actually in that afflicted state, more than you would think. You would really think that this is just small, but trust me, there are so many people, for example, who now work on for example, TikTok videos and YouTube and this and that. Khair, inshallah. Sometimes just one clip, sometimes just one thing over here, or a statement or whatever you write, it will have a huge impact in the heart of that person that is feeling the hardship. Over here, I'd like to mention a couple of things. You see, this compassion itself. Now, for example, if I were to take the issue of this earthquake that has happened, over here, you see, tarbiyah of a child is something that I need to do proactively. I need to actually invest in my child, in explaining, and I need to take time in explaining to my child. So, for instance, I need to start off by explaining to them what has happened, and the fact that the basis point of this is that musawat, okay, between human beings. I need to start with this point, that is to say, equality of human beings, of human life, and of the fact that all of us, we feel pain, all of us, we feel suffering. Everybody is as aziz, as they say, as precious, as endeared, as beloved to their members of family as we are with each other. So I need to teach my children, for example, that look at this child, for example, this happened to him, that child. So I need to, first of all, give them those flashes. Secondly, I need to explain to them what we need to do, or to think with them, any kind of a dialogue. What do you think we can do? Some people may be able to go over there and fly. Right now, we've got the half-term holidays, for example. They'll be able to fly with some of the NGOs, etc., to go and help in any way or any way possible. Bismillah. To teach that physically. On the other some people would be able to, donate and give some charity. Okay, I'm going to give some money from myself, and you give some money from your own pocket money, for example. Okay, I'll match it times whatever. For example, you give £1, I'll give £10, whatever. So when they do that, you see, there was a certain study that was done over here in the UK by psychologists with regards to self-esteem. And they actually deprived those children on whom they did that study from a certain school. They deprived them from all forms of makeup, all forms of, secondly, of electronic devices and everything. So they could only, if I'm not mistaken, it was a period of, I don't know, was it a week or a month? They could only do volunteering, schoolwork, other forms of social exercises, etc., and dress normally, no using no makeup or anything for the girls. But when they did some of those, they had forms to actually measure their levels of self-esteem at the beginning of the study. Now, in comparison to when they actually had them engage in a social exercise of helping, volunteering specifically, and then they did that survey again, they did that questionnaire, that interview again, in order to measure their levels of self-esteem, they found that after the volunteering exercise, their levels of self-esteem increased. So that appreciation of themselves, that feeling of achievement would increase. So again, to show the suffering of the other, to show them what can we do, okay, like give, etc., etc., many things that can be done. And finally, why is it so important for us to also do that? Now, over here, there are two dimensions. There is, first of all, the riwayat, there's the Islamic angle to it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will become pleased with us. Allah will grant, fulfill our wishes as well. Allah will, on the day of judgment, He will give us so-and-so reward. But there's also, the other side, the more life, the more material, simplified style, also telling the children, which is that put yourself in their position. If you were in their position and somebody else had the choice of actually helping or not helping, what would you want them to do? What would you tell them to do? Okay? Imagine yourself right now, you're under the rubble. So then based on what answer they give you, of course, they'll say yes. I mean, except they're playing with you, but they will say, yes, of course, I would want them to help. At that, then okay, let's go. What do you think? You said we can help them with so-and-so, then let's go. So this is just one example of, basically how we can instill this mercy in our children with respect to certain things. This mercy and compassion, it comes at two levels. Now, in my previous lectures, in my previous discussions in this show of parenting, I had mentioned that there are, first of all, when we talk about parenting, we talk about upbringing of the children, there is certain, first of all, what are known as methods, asalib, of parenting and of upbringing, whereby one of them is through love and compassion and mercy. Then there is the what. That was the how. Now there is the what. What do I teach now my child? Amongst the things that we need to teach our children is akhlaq. Okay, the akhlaqi tarbiyah. And amongst the akhlaqi tarbiyah, then we find one of the examples is actually compassion. So compassion comes at two levels. We have to upbring them by using compassion, and we also have to instill in them compassion as well.
Ahsantum, Shaykhuna. Very fruitful conversation and very fruitful speech indeed on how to use and how to employ compassion in our upbringing. And it's to be honest, it's a challenge for all of us, considering compassion and how to apply that in our household, because we're also we're hold accountant about the being compassion, isn't it? Being compassionate towards our children as well. They learn from us. So we're the first role model. Secondly, I think another challenge that we face is that siblings normally, they tend to, due to their nature, they tend to fight. And it's a challenge to parents to how to stop them fighting, or how to create a kind of, consolidation. So do you have any suggestion, any advice for us?
So first of all, I would say that in giving an answer, there could be generalization, but it is not always accurate to be applied in each and every single scenario. So you would first of all have to look at it on a case by case issue. There is one place where for example, the siblings are shouting at each other. There's another where the siblings, for example, one of them has taken something that belongs to the other without permission. There's another where maybe, God forbid, they start to physically hit each other, for example. So it depends on what the situations are. Now, if it is a matter of shouting, for example, amongst the things that can be done, of course, over here is see what are they shouting about, what's going on, what's the cause of it, and try to solve the cause. But then come the matter of advising them that it's not good to shout at each other. Would one of you like, for example, for somebody else to shout at them? How does it make you feel? What does it say about our akhlaq? What do you think our neighbors will say about our house, for example? Is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pleased with somebody who does that? Especially if, God forbid, they use bad words, for example. Tell them that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not love a person who is fahash, who continuously uses bad words. This isn't befitting for our akhlaq as a Muslim. A Muslim doesn't swear. On the other hand, let's say, for example, they're physically hitting each other, for example. No, over here, you have to step in order to separate them. Okay? And you send each and every one of them to a different place. Okay? And then, of course, you would have to have, amongst the things is actually tarbiyah bil uquba. Okay, that is to say, to upbring them or to rear them, to parent them through the use of punishment. Now, when I say punishment, I mean the fact that there should be consequences. For example, depriving them of something that they really enjoy doing. Okay, PlayStation, no PlayStation for a certain period of time, for example, or no going to so and so place, for example. So basically, again, it depends on what the situation is. That would actually determine how you intervene. And you as a parent, of course, on the one hand, you have to use your compassion and love. On the other hand, you also have to exercise your authority. Just a couple of points to end this with is that, how do I get my children to actually listen to me? This is where a concept of emotional credit comes in. There's a concept called emotional credit. Is that when you're compassionate, when you're good, loving, etc., with your child, but of course you do maintain the fact that even though you do befriend them, but at the same time you still are the parent, they will want to seek your pleasure. So whenever you find that they are doing something that they're not supposed to be doing, instead of immediately going to going to the solution of punishment, rather what you can do is that you can use your emotional credit with the child. Well, for example, then khair, I'm not going to do so and so with you. Or, for example, something that I find always works. Okay, khair, I'm not going to talk to you anymore. I'm not going to talk to you. Just leave them by that. If they say, just don't respond. You feel that will have a really, really big effect. They will start to really, really blame themselves for whatever they did. Now, this, of course, does come to a certain extent where sometimes, no, you need to be a bit firmer than that. Okay? And sometimes, of course, being firmer, it will entail for you to either, have some facial expressions, for you to, raise your voice, etc. Yes, this is necessary sometimes. This is life. Life is not flowery, and it's not a fantasy world. Sometimes you do need to show authority in such a way.
أحسنتم ما شاء الله شيخنا. شيخنا الجليل الله يحفظكم.
Barakallah bikum,
And
habib.
I personally really enjoyed listening to you. And I tell you that the reason that your children, they get scared when you tell them I don't talk to them, because your talk is very sweet indeed. And
Al-afu, al-afu,
may
al-afu,
Allah
barakallah.
protect you. MashaAllah, MashaAllah. May Allah protect you and give you
Allah
barakah.
subhanahu all
And
of us and all of our children, inshallah. Ameen.
inshallah, inshallah.
Ameen.
Ahsantum, Shaykhuna. Indeed, what we learned from Shaykhuna al-Jalil, Sheikh Afdal Hussein, was that as parents, we need to emit compassion. However, we need to have our boundaries and show our authorities in our relationship with the children. We have to use emotional credit. So I'm trying to reflect on what Sheikh Afdal Hussein advised us. And indeed, this conversation and his speech was based on a hadith and Quran. And inshallah, all of us benefit from him and people like him. May Allah protect him and his family
Ameen. All
and
of us.
all our ulama.
Ameen.
You
Al-afu,
are
barakallah.
in debt with your kindness and compassion.
Astaghfirullah. Barakallah bikum. Barakallah bikum. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us all, inshallah. Ameen.
Any final message for our audience?
Yes. Sometimes it's really important for us to take the opportunity or take by passing opportunities to teach a lesson and a moral to our children. Today is a matter of compassion with respect to those who are in a really difficult situation. Sometimes it may be the case of teaching them bravery. Sometimes it may be the case of teaching them to be a person of principle or to be a person of truthfulness. We need to take those moments in life and to exploit them as much as possible according to what the circumstances at the time allow us in order to instill these values in our children. Because if we only focus on investing in our ISAs and our pension and not investing in our children, then we have made a mistake, because in the end, whatever material gains that we may have, they will end. But with our children, this lineage is going to be continuing, inshallah. And then in barzakh, we will benefit, inshallah, from the good that they do. Walad as-salih, whatever good that they do. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah, instill these virtues of beauty, inshallah, these virtues of compassion and good morals in all of our children, so that we, when our time comes and we pass to the other world, that their good deeds continue to benefit us and please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Jazakumullah. Allahumma salli ala
Jazakumullah khair al-jaza, Shaykhuna. May Allah protect you. And dear respected brothers and sisters, may Allah protect you and guide all of us, inshallah, towards his Sarat al-Mustaqim, which is the Sarat of Ahlul Bayt and Amir al-Mu'minin alayhim salam, and inshallah be steadfast on this path with the guidance of our ulama. Let's not part from them at all, and let's be with them, be with our ulama, be with all the sources of nur. May Allah protect you, Shaykhuna.
Ameen. Inshallah.
Thank you very much.
Al-afu, barakallah. Thank you very much.
Looking forward to having you again, inshallah, and learning from you.
Inshallah, inshallah, inshallah. Ameen, inshallah. Ameen.
Keep us in your dua, inshallah. See you next week. See you, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.